Can women take CJC Ipamorelin? Now, I know you dudes who are like, oh, I don't want to watch this, but actually, if you have a lady in your life or if you want to in the future, this could be really helpful. So in this video, what I'm going to do is show you the difference between how women respond and men. So many men are talking about how this is just the metabolic game changer. They got shredded on CJC, all these big claims, but you don't hear as much from women. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how it actually may be even more beneficial, especially to you mothers who have been 24/7 caring for your kids. Probably your husband's just like another kid. I know I can be like that with my wife. And so I want to put some juice back into the tank. So let's jump in. I'm Regan Archibald. I'm the founder of Ageless Future. I believe that your health is your best investment, your number one investment. If you're watching this video, I know you're somebody who wants to look, feel, and perform your best. And so I'm doing my best to give you the knowledge that I have and access to a phenomenal world-class medical team who can help you get some of these unique peptides. So if you want to learn more, go to agelessfuture.com. and my team will take great care of you. Okay, so what happened recently is I was at the gym, and I live in this beautiful town called Midway, Utah, and I was in Heber where the gym is, and I had a client come up to me and she said, man, I am doing so great on my program. And I said, oh, great. And so, her provider is Joe Babel, one of our physician assistants, and she's like, he's got me on CJC-1295. And I have never slept better. She's like, I just turned 50 and my breasts are even perkier. And I was like, I didn't expect that. I'd never met her, and if I meet you in public, you know far more about me than I may know about you because of the videos. But she was so excited and her husband was there with her and her husband's like, man, she's just like, everything seems to be turned back on. She's like, I feel 20 years younger. And I was really excited. So I wanted to make a video to explain the differences between the female physiology and the male's physiology and how to watch out for some of the areas where you can start retaining fluid, because that's the biggest complaint we've seen over the years is where women will say, man, I'm retaining fluid. I gained 3 pounds on CJC, I got to get off immediately. And they miss the mark as far as why the body's holding on to that extra, sodium retention is what's triggering it. But also they're using it maybe at the wrong time of the month if you're still menstruating. So why do women need this? So this is some of the thoughts I put together. Here's a study. It's a study of the female use of synthetic growth hormone, CJC. And it was conducted in 2016. And it looked at these posts from female users. So this was not a clinical trial. All this is called a natanography, and I'm probably mispronounced that. You guys don't like it when I mispronounce things. I've seen it in the chat. Some of you guys are rude. I'm not going to get offended, but I can barely speak English. So what that means is they're just analyzing conversations women are having. So basically they're spying on conversations. These are the threads online. And this is what these women were saying about what happened when they took CJC-1295. Because you may or may not know this, CJC-1295 is not an FDA-approved compounding drug. It made it through phase 2 clinical trials, but it never made it to market for one reason or another, which I've explained on other videos. So if you are using this, make sure you're not using something from an unknown source, especially this is an injection. So get it through a licensed provider, a medical provider who's using a licensed 503A compounding pharmacy so that you're getting the right thing. But here's what the women found. They often reported they're using it for weight loss, muscle tone, skin quality, sleep, and recovery, and they're talking about the risks and the benefits. And generally speaking, there's no placebo, no control group once again, but they self-directed and they found that they did find that they lost fat. They found that the first week of being on it, many of these women, and I don't have the perfect statistics, and once again, I'm just doing my best to find you the research, but many of these women had some fluid retention. And the reason why you get fluid retention when you start activating growth hormone in your body is it activates the sodium pathway. So you have the sodium that pulls water into the extracellular tissue, and that's why your fingers can kind of feel puffy, Kind of like when you eat that big thing of crappy popcorn in the theater, stay away from it, just bring your own. Usually the kids there don't say anything if you do. Put some real butter on that, please. But that sodium retention can be a big deal, but usually it goes away. The other thing is it's called glycolysis, so you're actually moving more sodium through the body. But what the real goal is if you can exercise and start moving the muscle, the hydration, you want it in the muscle. And this is if you're using creatine. Women do so well on creatine. One of my friends, JJ Virgin, she's got a product called Sheacrin. And it's great because she's combined betaine hydrochloride, so you don't have the digestive upset that some people get when they're using creatine. So if you're using creatine, that's going to help. Beta-alanine also helps get the hydration into the muscle, which is where you want it for muscle gain. But what these women reported is they had more youthful skin, they had better sleep, they had perceived vitality, they had these aesthetic benefits. Like the patient who came up to me in the gym, she was really excited. She's starting to notice like muscle definition, her abs, and this was after just a couple of cycles of it. And so the authors, they do stress the need for medical oversight because here's some of the risks. Yes, that water retention is one of the side effects. Some of the women noticed that they had an immune response. So if you have a very triggered immune system, you want to be careful because you may elicit almost like what's called a mast cell activation, where you get this chronic inflammatory reactive syndrome where your body perceives these proteins as a threat. And it may notice some redness at the surface of the skin. That was also reported in this kind of global study. But for the most part, the women did well. There was some flushing that they reported, but they also found that flushing, they felt correlated to better skin conditioning and skin tone. They found that if they combined that with the sauna, they felt that they looked 10 years younger. Now, once again, this is all anecdotal, so don't take this as science, don't take it as a reason to go get on CJC. But once again, I think this is a molecule worth looking into. I think there's been some reported benefits that maybe the safety profile is pretty well. But the biggest thing is the women using the smaller doses and just pulsing that growth hormone pathway. They slept better, they noticed they looked better, their brains worked better, they had less brain fog, they were more active in the gym and more motivated to work out. So it made it a very unique structure. So here's the difference. So often women respond better than men to some of these growth hormone peptides. And that's because when you have babies, one of the cool things that nobody talks about is when you give birth, and I hope, if you're thinking about being a mom, be a mom. It's one of the coolest things you can have. Like we're celebrating my son's 20th birthday today, and just seeing him thrive over the years is so impressive. But what's even more impressive is just seeing my wife in the role of a mother. She is a damn good mother, and I know you are too. But when you give birth, Mother Nature brings all these stem cells. So in that placenta, in the umbilical cord, how can you grow an entire organ in your body to help support a baby? It's through stem cells. And when you give birth, you get this massive influx of stem cells, and stem cells love when your growth hormone is activated. And so you can just turn on some of these resident stem cells from the birth that you gave. And not only that, but you've had a lot of these sleepless nights, you're waking up. Hopefully your husband's getting up too and taking care of diapers and feeding. But a lot of times, all the burden, all the responsibility rests on your shoulders. But many women report more vibrant energy surges. They feel more grounded. They feel less anxiety. They get over that kind of slump, that afternoon slump where they just don't feel like they've accomplished anything because they're just running from one crisis, mess on the floor from the 3-year-old, and then the 5-year-old's got a recital that they're going to. And, your life can feel really chaotic. And so what CJC, at least from their anecdotal reports, is that they can feel better. So if you're a mother, it's great. Okay, if you are breastfeeding or if you're pregnant, do not take this or any other peptides. We just don't have the safety profile. There's your caveat there. Okay, menopausal mode. Here's what they found. Even the menopausal mode, there's a flip light that got turned back on when it comes to some of the sex hormones. When you have adequate levels of growth hormone, your body gets in this safe place. One of the things that we do biologically is if we're aging, our body will turn off some of the sex hormones. And so they just felt they had more libido, better sexual vitality. Many of them said, I feel like me again. And that signal happens when you start activating growth hormone. Now, if you have not worked with a doctor on HRT, hormone replacement therapy, I don't know if you've heard, but finally this year, after 25 years, that black label on your estrogen, progesterone, the hormone replacement, they finally removed that. They realized the Women's Health Initiative, that study was flawed from the beginning, so you may want to consider stacking some hormones in. Even the studies show that women who've been on hormone replacement therapy, HRT, even being on it for a year, they live 7 years longer, looking at some of the data. Make sure you work with someone who's very experienced at this. And if you need a provider, I've got some phenomenal prescribing providers in the office who can help you get on the right hormones, see what growth hormone peptides may be beneficial for you. The other thing they noticed, these are what some of the post-menopausal women reported, is they felt younger, more lit up, systematically charged, and not hormonally hijacked. So I thought that was pretty cool. One thing that happens when you activate growth hormone, you're going to turn on collagen. So all of these precursors for collagen synthesis get turned on, so you have less wrinkles. You'll notice that your tissue gets a little more firm, but they also notice that it's a whole architecture regeneration in their body. When you combine that with some of these beautiful stem cell products from perinatal tissue, exosomes, the amnion factors, you just turn on all these metabolic processes that you want turned on, because mothers, we want you around. We want you to be grandmothers, great-grandmothers. I mean, my grandma is turning 95 this year, and I love that woman. She's so strong. She still lives on the farm. She's independent. I want to be like her when I get that age. I mean, she is phenomenal. And so these peptides could be a portal to help you get to that same future. And I appreciate being on the channel. Love you, and I'll see you on the next video. I'm Regan Archibald. Thanks for being here.